Hello everybody and welcome to part 11 of What If Peter Parker Was an MHA. This part continues where the previous one left off with the whole Spider-Verse thingy happening, and we leave that, hence the video being called Out of the Spider-Verse, and continue on after a bit. Yes, I hope you guys are enjoying the series and are glad that it's back. If you do, and if you are, hit that like and subscribe buttons. All that said, please enjoy the video. The Inheritors, a group of immortal vampires who traveled across time and space hunting Spider-Totems, had started the Great Hunt. They had one goal: to find and capture the Other, the Bride, and the Scion, in order to use their blood on the great web of life and destiny to kill all spider people and stop more from being born. An ancient prophecy dictated that this family would die at the hands of one of these Spider-Men, so they decided to wipe them out of the face of the multiverse before that could happen. Throughout their travels, some spider people were alerted to the existence of this hunt, so they started forming various factions in order to defend themselves. Once they found out about each other's existence, the factions combined, going on the run after their safe zone was discovered and destroyed. The group of Spider-Totems once again split up, with Miles Morales and Ultimate Spider-Man going to recruit more spiders for their cause. First, they went to a 1960s looking universe, teaming up with that Spider-Man. Then they passed by a Wild West world, then one filled with animated objects, etc. They hopped and hopped until coming across Marvel Earth 2305. There, a portal manifested on top of some rooftops. While they were taking a break from patrol, Cindy, Moon, and Peter spotted the portal opening, causing Cindy to ask Peter if this was his doing. "What do you think, I'm some sort of wizard? I'm not Gandalf!" Peter exclaimed. All he knew was based on science. The manifesting portal seemed more like magic to him. The portal fully opened with Miles and the others coming out to greet their two new recruits. "What the heck is this?" Peter exclaimed, both surprised to see other spiders and confused as to how they appeared. In his head, the gears were already turning, trying to come up with an answer to this impossibility. It had to be a multiverse thing, right? Cindy, on the other hand, was in total shock. She was staring at the portal without knowing what to say, what to do, or having a possible explanation. Finally, after a couple moments of staring, something came out of her mouth.
What the fuck? What the hell is this? What the hell is happening?
This is why you should have kept up with the Spider-Verse comics, dear viewers, the Ultimate Spider-Man said to the audience. Oh, by the way, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. What's wrong with him? Peter asked. Hell if I know. I've been asking myself the same thing this whole time, Miles answered.
How are you taking this so calmly? Why are they all dressed like you? Why is there a talking car?
Silk asked, hectically shouting. It could always be someone's quirk, but by the conditions of everything, including the talking car, my best guess is that they may come from some alternate dimension? I read a lot about multiverse theory, so that could be it, I guess? Peter said, calmly evaluating the situation. That's right, and we need your help, Miles said, quickly explaining the situation to the two of them. After hearing the whole story, and realizing that both their lives and those of a lot of people were at stake, the two of them joined in the adventure. They passed by 2 more worlds, recruiting 2 more spider people, including Jessica Drew, the Black Widow of Marvel Earth 1610, before Miles got the call from 616 Peter telling him they needed reinforcements. The group then made their way to Marvel Earth 001, also known as Loom World, where they joined in the battle. "Web Warriors, on me!" Miles shouted, leading the group towards Brix and Verna, keeping them distracted to allow some of the others to go after the bigger fish. Even though there were so many of them, the 2 Inheritors managed to push the battle from the courtyard into their castle to rejoin their family. It looked like they were going to lose, but then a portal opened and Karn, another Inheritor, entered the battlefield, turning on his family. He was joined by a couple of other spider people, which helped turn the tide. Peter saw many other versions of himself die on the battlefield. One of those dying Spider-Man entrusted his remaining web fluid and his dimensional travel watch onto Peter. As part of the third wave of attacks, Peter used the web fluid to help keep the Inheritors at bay, along with many other spider people. It was when a giant robot called Lepardian arrived that the tides truly changed. "Is that a giant robot? Like the one in Super Sentai?" Peter exclaimed, seeing the giant anime-like robot arrive. "Truly incredible, isn't he?" the Japanese Spider-Man asked Peter in Japanese. "Yeah, he really is," Peter answered in Japanese, surprising the Japanese Spider-Man a little. This was the first time he'd seen another spider person who spoke Japanese. After Lepardian showed up on the battlefield, it took very little time to capture the Inheritors. Once they were defeated, to make sure they wouldn't be a problem again, the group banished the Inheritors into Marvel Earth 3145, an irradiated world where they'd only be able to survive in a special bunker. With the war over, everyone returned home. Peter and Cindy came out of a portal in an alleyway a couple hundred meters from where they had entered. Peter took out his phone to look at the time, noting that it had only been 2 hours since they had left.
Was it me, or was all that...
Cindy started. "Totally insane!" Peter exclaimed, finishing his compatriot's sentence.
Yes, it was insane, wasn't it? I'm so glad we made it out alive. But we can't tell anyone about this. It is way too crazy,
Cindy said. "I agree with you. I saw countless versions of myself, and many other people die that way," Peter agreed, freaking out slightly.
It's part of the job. We encounter a lot of death in our field of work. Just like many cops and firemen, you know? So if you ever need anyone to talk to, just know I'm here,
Cindy offered. Peter's spider sense then suddenly started going bananas for a second, causing him immense pain. It was as if the very thing he used to sense danger was in danger itself.
Are you okay?
Cindy asked, picking up on what happened. "Yeah, just a huge headache," Peter said, the pain ceasing moments after. It was a bizarre episode, but at least it didn't last long. With that craziness having ended, the two resumed their patrol, returning to the agency after they finished. They reported on everything they saw, excluding the multiversal adventure, and then headed home. Once he got to the dorms, Peter analyzed his brand new toy, seeking to understand how it worked. Unfortunately, it was so complex he didn't understand the mechanisms. He could probably figure it out with a bit more time, but since he had no need for a multiversal traveling device at the moment, he placed it in a box for safekeeping. For the next few days, Peter returned to school, going through classes normally. Until a couple days later, he was called back to his workplace study. Now that he knew the ropes a bit, he was placed in a different team. Along with Kendo, Johnny Storm, and Bobby Drake, he was assigned to patrol the city's south side to make sure nothing too suspicious was going on there and to keep the peace. After gathering their gear and getting ready, the group headed out, reaching the south area rather quickly. "Man, why did we get assigned such a big area?" Johnny complained after they walked around for a bit. "We can always split up and cover more ground," Bobby concluded, seeing where his partner was going with his complaint. At this point, he knew him far too well.
Is that really a good idea?
Kendo questioned.
Dividing our fighting force is really not that strategic.
Think about it though. This area is huge. What if there was a robbery in one part and we're in the opposite area? If the villain is fast, then he can get away, Johnny argued. But Kendo has a point. Two of us here are just first years, and you two haven't been heroes for long either. We're all in a similar boat, so what if we encounter a strong villain? He could defeat us if we're alone, Peter countered. Do you really think White Tiger would assign this area to us if he didn't think we could handle it? Johnny asked. They do have a point, Johnny, Bobby opined, stopping his rival from going further. Fine. We can split into teams of two then, Johnny proposed. I'll take Battlefist and you take the Webhead. We're switching later. Fine by me, Bobby said, leaving along with Peter. Peter and Bobby had walked for a while, helping out some people in small ways, such as escorting them to the station, giving directions, and things of the sort, when they encountered a pickpocket. The woman was wearing a white and pink outfit, running around with a drone following close behind her, recording everything she did. Seeing her steal people's wallets and bags, Peter and Bobby started following behind. Even though they were giving chase, the girl seemed to be getting away quite well. She kept setting up small traps, talking to her viewers as she went along, and things of the sort. It took about 37 minutes for the two heroes to finally catch her. It was so annoying for them. While Peter and Bobby dealt with that stupidly annoying villain, Kendo and Johnny patrolled the area themselves. They encountered many minor problems: a cat stuck in a tree, tourists needing directions, kids who were getting in a fight, and so on. They even had to intervene in a pretty big brawl in a bar with no name at one point. That brawl was solved suspiciously quickly once they showed up, with a man wearing a cowboy hat getting everyone to calm down. Once lunchtime rolled around, the two groups reconvened, picking up some food and taking a short break. Luckily, it was quite a peaceful time with no significant events interrupting their meal. After lunch finished, the four heroes in training split up again. They drew lots to decide teams, with Kendo and Peter forming one while Bobby and Johnny formed another. The two first years, thinking this to be an illogical group up, wanted to complain, but their upperclassmen bolted before they could complain in any way. "See you in 2 hours!" they shouted as they left. "Guess we're stuck with each other," Peter voiced.
I guess we are, but we might as well make the most of it,
Kendo added.
Come on, let's get going.
Kendo and Peter patrolled the area for a while. Along the way, they found a kid who got separated from his mother, so they helped him out. Then they helped someone with directions and did other things of the sort. Along the way, they found a bulky man who was twitching and moving around erratically, scratching himself all around. He seemed kind of shady, so Peter suggested they keep an eye on him. Kendo agreed, but thought she'd get caught if she tried to follow, so she kept her distance, while Peter kept following the man from the air, making sure not to be spotted thanks to his stealth mode. "Yeah, you got the stuff?" the man asked, erratically scratching himself. His voice sounded excited, like he was about to finally receive his fix after a while of not having it.
5 vials of trigger, just like requested,
the girl answered, opening a case to show the merchandise. A happy expression formed on the man's face as he reached for the case expectantly. He needed those vials, but before he could grab the case, the girl moved it away, closing it at the same time.
Not so fast. The kingpin would like his money first.
Right here, the man said, pulling out a messy pile of bills. "Whoa, whoa, whoa, not so fast," Peter said, jumping in the way, grabbing the case off the girl's hands. "What's this? Illegal drugs? You know they're not allowed to sell those, right? I mean, it's in the name." The snatch came by surprise, causing the man to fall to the ground, but the girl seemed unfazed, standing there and looking at Peter with a harsh and piercing look. She then averted her gaze to the man who was staring up at Peter.
A hero,
the girl exclaimed.
I'm Hertzen. Did you really try setting me up? One of the kingpin's wakers?
No, I didn't do anything. You've got to believe me, the man said, getting back up and bowing to show his respect.
It doesn't really matter,
the girl said, looking at her hand as she charged up her stinger.
I have to take care of this insignificant insect all the same.
She then shot out the blast at Peter, which he barely evaded, jumping out of the way. Not an insect! The name's Spider-Man. I'm obviously an arachnid. It feels like I'm always telling people this, Peter corrected, swinging at the girl in order to kick her down.
My mistake,
the girl corrected, shooting at him again before he could get close enough. Peter was sent flying back, the case falling out of his hand. I could use some little help here, Peter whispered as he struggled to get up. The blast had hurt, but the residual pain when he moved now was worse.
I'm sure you could,
the girl said, walking over to Peter, ready to blast him again.
But you aren't getting any. Yes, he is,
Kendo shouted, enlarging her fist and jumping in the way. She made herself a target so Peter wouldn't be hit again.
Damn it. Another one.
The Waker said, focusing her attention on Kendo shooting her stinger at her. But Peter shot a web at the Waker's hand, pulling at it and making the attack miss. This allowed Battlefist to get in close, hitting the girl with full force. Taking advantage of the confusion, the man started running, wanting to get away from all of this. He already had a prior, so buying drugs wouldn't look good for him. As he ran, he spotted the case, grabbing onto it and leaving. The Waker jumped back to her feet. She looked at her opponents rushing at her, one from the air and one from the ground. She didn't have time to charge up her stinger, so she evaded blow after blow. She got hit by some minor moves, forcing her back though. Seeing no real way out of the situation, the Waker pulled out this weird gun, mounting a strange vial onto it. How many times do I have to tell you bad guys? No toys allowed! Peter said, wanting to take the gun before she could even aim. Instead of answering, the girl blocked the web, using her own arm to stop it. She pulled on it, forcing Peter down while shooting at him. Wanting to keep her partner safe, Kendo raised her arm, enlarging her fist to block the attack. But after the bullet made impact, her fist shrank back to their regular size. Right after she was hit, remembering the last time he'd seen someone be hit by a bullet, rage overtook Peter. He jumped over Kendo, swinging at the Waker. She quickly mounted another bullet, wanting to hit Peter, but he managed to move out of the way, yoinking the gun before hitting her in the head with the bottom of his leg. In one swift blow, he had knocked her out. "Are you alright?" Peter asked, concern overtaking his anger as he ran to Kendo's side, taking off his mask to better be able to inspect her.
Just fine,
Kendo answered, moving her hand around to see that everything worked. She looked at her hand, weirded out. Everything seemed fine, but the bullet had hit her. What did it do? That's really weird. Could she have fired a blank by accident? Peter wondered.
No matter the case, we should get the villain to the streets and call the cops,
Kendo suggested. She got up and approached the villain, trying to enlarge her fist to grab her, but nothing seemed to happen. Peter looked at Kendo. She started shaking slightly. Is everything alright? He asked.
My quick isn't working,
Kendo answered. An alarmed expression formed on Peter's face. Regardless, they had a job to do, so Peter webbed up the villain, leaving her on a light pole with a note that detailed why she was captured and by whom. They let the police know about the incident and reconvened with Johnny and Bobby, discussing how to move forward. After a while of talking, they decided that Bobby would accompany Kendo back to the agency so she could get sent to the hospital and properly looked at. But before they could get on their way, a small explosion went off close by. The group would start hearing crashing sounds and got worried, looking in the direction of the commotion. They then looked back at Kendo for a moment.
Don't worry about me. I can go back by myself,
Kendo said, knowing that it'd probably take all their attention. But she couldn't help anymore. Without her quirk, what could she do but get in the way? Spidey then swung away with Johnny flying behind and Bobby creating an ice slide that kept him close to the other two. Once they approached the epicenter of the commotion, they found a bunch of people running away from a hulking beast. It was the man from before who had apparently consumed one of the trigger injections as it was still hanging from his neck. The three heroes quickly leapt into action. People were struggling to escape the area, tripping and falling in the panic. So Peter swung down to help, making sure they'd make it away safely. Once the hulking beast spotted Spidey, it ran towards him, wanting to end him for interrupting his deal before. But before he could reach him, Bobby created a wall in his way, blocking him from reaching Spidey or the other civilians. Before the creature could react, Johnny stormed in, pushing him back from the ice wall. Once he was far enough, he created some distance with some fireballs, getting up in the air so the beast wouldn't be able to hit him. Bobby then started moving around, coating the whole area in ice to minimize damage and to enclose the villain. After that was done, he too jumped in the fight. The two heroes dealt blow after blow at the villain, but it only served to keep him at bay. The creature always recovered from the burns and broke out of the ice quite quickly. Peter finished the evacuation, so he joined his 2 upperclassmen. He jumped at the villain before he could reach Bobby, shooting 2 web lines at him to stop him. It did little, so Peter used his stickiness on the ground, barely stopping the man. Annoyed by that action, the creature turned around, snapping the web line and charging at Peter. Peter managed to jump out of the way, landing on top of the villain and jumping again before he crashed into the ice wall. The villain quickly got back up and started looking around for Peter, only to realize he had landed on his back again. "Looking for me?" Peter asked. The man started trying to reach him, trying to smash at Peter, but he kept evading. Eventually, the man let himself fall backwards, smashing Peter to the ground before he could jump away. "Now we should get involved," Johnny announced, bringing a small argument with Bobby to a close. Before Sim could smash Peter's head in, Johnny jumped in, pushing him away. Bobby then froze him over as Johnny retrieved Peter, but the time frame didn't allow for much more, as the villain once again broke free. Despite all their struggles, they were only managing to keep the creature busy. Lucky for the trio, their boss, the White Tiger, showed up at the scene. As soon as he arrived, Sim charged at him, trying to take him down. "You have a gentle spirit, but it's been toughened over time and corrupted," he said upon taking a look at the villain, a tone of pity in his voice. The White Tiger then evaded his attack. He put his hand to his necklace, channeling his spirit and focusing himself on the fight. He kept his distance, waiting for the beast to attack again. When it did, White Tiger used his enemy's strength and weight against him, carefully placing a number of small strikes at the joints, swiftly grabbing the villain by the arm and throwing him down. Slightly concussed, the villain got back up and charged. As he moved forward, the effects of Trigger seemed to pass, so when White Tiger's next blow came, the villain went down quite easily. "He did it! He defeated the villain!" Johnny announced, flabbergasted. The 3 of them were barely keeping him at bay, but White Tiger beat him like he was nothing. "This man was no villain. He may have performed evil actions, but it's entirely based on circumstance," Hector said after taking down the villain. "I'll leave the rest to you 3. He then jumped away, leaping around to head to a different part of the city. Shortly after, the police arrived, taking the villain into custody. After the villain got taken by the police, the group continued on patrol until the day finished. Once the patrol finished, Johnny and Bobby gave their reports on everything that happened, heading home after. Peter instead passed by the hospital to make sure Kendall would be alright. The doctors had taken a look at her and her quirk seemed to be working again, but she would be staying behind for observation for a bit. Knowing that, Peter headed back to the dorms, arriving just in time for dinner. Once most people had left the agency for the day, and only the night crew remained, in his office, White Tiger went over most of his employees' reports when someone came in. "What is it?" Hector asked Silk.
"The girl that the first-year interns captured. She just made bail,"
Silk informed. "Did you say anything during the interrogation process?" Hector asked as he kept looking through the reports.
"Not really. The only fact of note is that she said she wanted to grab a drink when she got out,"
Silk said. "Why is that important?" Hector asked.
"Because Fancy Dan is the one who bailed her out,"
Silk answered. "I see. Interesting. That might actually lead to something," he said, grabbing Johnny's report on the bar fight and connecting the dots. If he was right, he'd need to organize quite quickly and make a move before the villains got wise of his operation. And you reached the end of the video. Since you did, follow the Ultimate Spider-Man's advice from the TV show and hit that like and subscribe button. He breaks the fourth wall a lot, so I thought it would be funny to have him ask for like and subscribe inside the video. It'll fit in character. It's something I would do when and if Deadpool appears in this series and all that stuff. All that said, I hope you guys enjoyed again, and until next time, have an absolutely fantastic day. Bye!